Hello, Blues fans. We're back, and this week it is future players going into our senior squads. And this week we're joined by wee Blues coach and senior coach Colin Parsons and departing Youth Convenor Paddy Hadoke.
Hi there, everyone.
Hello.
Corgi, I will let you.
Yeah, the reason we did this one, it's quite a strange one. This is a mixed one. For the last couple of weeks, we've been doing Fridays, whether it be either a podcast or a Best 15. So we thought, why not bring them both together and get certainly two experts in the field. So I was saying Colin Parsons nurtures the young kids, boys and girls from primary 7 up to the youth level. And obviously Paddy, as Murray said, I know he'll go into a bit more detail when he gets his chance to speak, but Paddy has been the Director of Youth or the Youth Convenor for the last couple of years. So Colin, do you want to give yourself a quick run through of what you actually do? Because I've never seen you at the club.
So I'll be really quick. Yeah, so I've been involved in coaching at a club for quite a while, quite a number of years. But for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been involved with the primary 6-7s. So that's trying to get them ready and prepared for going up to the youth section. I've also been helping out with the seniors for that kind of same period as well. So it's good now that I've probably seen a lot of boys that are now going into coach this year. So I won't have seen everybody play, and I've probably not seen as many games as I should have done this year with the younger ages. But I'd certainly, I'll be looking at boys and girls who, when they were in the wee Blues, were looking very promising. So people that were standing out then. So things, as we know, can change. But then I'm kind of basing on that kind of background.
Brilliant, thanks very much. And as I see, you're normally quite a well rewarded individual. You get an award every year of Dawn for your efforts, I'm sure, at the dinner normally. So, I normally get to have a beer with, which is very nice. Paddy, yourself, have been involved in rugby a long time, but your involvement at Kirkcaldy?
Yeah, so I started thinking about 2005, coaching what was then a P3-4 team. And co-coaching with one of the other dads, and I followed that team all the way through until they reached Colts level, and then took a year away from it, and then came back as youth convener. I think I've done 3 years as youth convener, but so same as Colin. Actually, I've seen a lot of lads come through, and it has been mainly lads in the teams that I've been involved in, just because that's how it worked out. One of the things that's been a real improvement, I think, over the last few years is the way that the girls rugby at youth level is developing, and we're seeing that because we've had girls come and play at minis, and it's always been a bit frustrating that there's a sudden gap when they get to youth. So I'm really pleased to see that developing. But it does mean that the players I've seen come through tended to be the lads rather than the girls, and I've seen some really excellent players come through, and we've got players over the last 3 or 4 years who've come through having started out at primary level, primary 3 and 4, and have been playing for the seconds and the first for the last 2 or 3 years, and not just playing for them, but making a huge contribution to the way those teams play and the way they're successful. And I think it's great. I like to see anybody coming through. We used to talk a lot about players that come through the youth system and the minis system as being players of tomorrow, and a lot of them are. A lot of them aren't. But that's absolutely fine as well, because the benefit of doing rugby when you come through is it's something that will stay with you forever. It's really good for building links, for helping with discipline and with purpose and fitness. And I think you often see people who've never been great players but stay as part of the rugby community all the way through their lives.
I think there's a role for it. It's quite strange, and Colin will tell you, I've only played one game for Kirkcaldy Rugby Club that's not been Zingari, and once on the bench maybe. I don't know if you remember the game, Colin, I played.
Ross.
It was.
I remember it well.
On a Friday night, a wet and windy Friday night. But there's roles for everybody at the club, I think, and this is the stuff we can't forget, that the importance of the whole family at Kirkcaldy. The roles that the 3 of us are doing at the moment are as important as the role as our friend, I know which side he's on, he could be anyone, Murray, when this plays back, the role he does on a Sunday with the 15s and 16s, you know. So I think we can't be, and I think this is the important thing about this, you know, people are going to maybe think, oh, I'm missing out on this, my name's not been mentioned. People will develop at different rates, and people, the story I like to tell about youth rugby to senior rugby, just because we don't list you at the moment, it's not because we don't think you're going to do it by any means. We think you're going to grow up and play rugby, and that's what we hope from everybody. But, you know, it's the story of Greg Wallace, you know, captain, I think joint captain, maybe co-captain when we won the league a couple of years ago, you know, played all his youth rugby and mini rugby at centre. And, you know, it's such a strong, probably one of the best hookers in that league now. You know, so guys will develop and girls will develop as they grow up through youth rugby. And you maybe start, you know, not like me, you know, I got closer to the scrum as I got older, but not like that. But some people will find their skill set changes over the years as they develop in age, as they develop in size. And then obviously we've got Murray along as well. Now Murray normally takes a huge part in this, but, you know, his name may get mentioned in this in somewhat, you know, if we are needing somebody to do the strips or something like that. But Murray, obviously, how long have you been at the club now?
Oh, I think I was a couple of weeks old when I saw my first game at the club, so been around for about 15 years now.
I think you have to be aware.
Yeah, sounds good.
Be aware that
15 years, nothing.
15.
Sorry, Paddy, what were you saying?
I was going to say we're going to be talking about things that are not just in the distance past for Murray, but are way before he was even born. So,
well, that's the thing. That's Murray and I had a chat about this when we hoped to put this together. Was that I think the Dream 15s or the My 15s or whatever, and the podcast have been hugely entertaining for folk to look back. But I think at the moment, especially, the club really has an angle to look forward. I think really positive at the moment about where the club's going. And, you know, we've looked at a lot of the players have picked teams. And as I said, that team that Greg captained, I'm sure, when we won the league 2 or 3 seasons ago, was full to the brim of wee Blues. I would have said probably about 13 of the starting team were Kirkcaldy was their original club. Now, you had the odd ones, even the ones that weren't from Kirkcaldy were from close to Kirkcaldy. You know, Danny and Marcus, I think, started at Dunfermline. Marcus came across with 15. Craig Letham at Perth and Kinross, he lived up that way, but then, you know, came down. You know, so it was a huge internal sort of victory for the club when we won that league. So I know from having been director of rugby at the time, just before that and just after it, that homegrown talent is vital to keeping this club alive. You know, and I hope you guys will agree with that.
Oh, totally. So even just touching on what you're talking about there, when I started coaching, I'm not saying this is anything to do with me, by the way, but when I started coaching, I was coaching at P6s, and the team got Team of the Year that year, and the Blues, and they actually lost every single game. And the guys, that was guys like Reece Bonner, and that kind of age group. So they progressed. We worked hard. Willie Anderson, a number of other coaches, we worked really hard to get progress. And then by under 15, they were actually in the Scottish Bowl final. So that's in the Scottish Bowl at under 15. And then at Colts, they got into the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup. So that's guys like Jack Pow, Finlay Smith, Reece Bonner, Marcus, a couple of guys that are away as well. But a lot of players that are now senior players who started off that they did struggle with, they could have given up, but it just shows how you can peak at different times and improve and all that kind of stuff. So it is important to keep working and you progress at different levels and different stages at different ages.
I think you're right, Colin. I think if you drop the name Murray Douglas and James Pow into that mix as well, who are wee Blues, who seem to be doing all right at the moment as well. You know, they've obviously had a good upbringing, and I think that's a great thing about quality is that parents and coaches get involved and work together to try and do the best for the group of kids. Listen, we could go round and round in a circle. I think we're all passionate about how well everybody does, you know. But I think we're gonna select something different from the My 15. We're going to select players who we think at the moment who are doing really well, and if they keep developing, would likely be heavily involved in that senior first 15 squad. in the next 10 years, you know. So if they're sort of S1, 2 at the moment, they'll be in the early 20s, up to Colts who will be in their late 20s, maybe 30 by the time they're looking at this. So I'll go through it, and rather than give them individual, like this one plays loose head and that, because as we said, people change in that. We'll look at maybe a category of front row, middle row, back row, half-backs, centres and wingers. So we'll maybe go through that. And obviously Murray plays alongside a whole load of them, and again watches probably Colts rugby and has refereed the sevens, so you know he's got a good eye on who's doing what in the club as well. So as I was saying, you know, if you think you've missed out here in the youth section, please, it's probably just because I've never seen you playing.
Can I just add to that as well? My disclaimer slightly is that there are lots of lads who I've seen playing really well, and I can't remember their names. So putting names to faces, because I don't see them play every week. I know all the faces and I know all the names. I can't always link them up. Yeah. So I might miss people out just because I can't put the name to the face and vice versa.
Certainly at the moment, my list has got a few Balweary boys in it, because obviously I'm there every day when they can be bothered to open the school.
The other thing I don't know we're going to talk about it, Corgi, is I've kind of looked. We've not to forget as well that there are a lot of young guys playing at seniors at the moment. So I've actually got 15 guys that I reckon could probably be playing in 10 years' time that are actually.
Quite strange. I'll put a list of that at the end of mine as well. You know, I'm sure they'll be the same. I'll be interested to see what that mixes with. Who guys who will not even be in their 30s now in 10 years' time. You know, it's going to be phenomenal to watch. So we'll see how many of them are close together. Right. Good. So we'll go with front row then. So who wants to kick us off? Paddy.
I'll kick off. Because I've seen some of the lads who have just finishing under 18 now, quite a lot. I think a player who's stood out in the front row in that group is Ben Normile, who's a class player, who's, you know, just contributes, doesn't make a fuss, makes a big impact on the game, and is a really reliable performer.
Yeah, and it's already got some representation behind him. I think he's been involved in the Cali sort of squad going through the age group, so he's recognised as being certainly something they can work with. And I've watched him, and I've spoken to him. He's come down a couple of times to help me on camps. What a lovely young man in general as well. But yeah, all the skills, and I think he's maybe one of the ones that may change position. I don't know if he'll maybe end up in the back row, but certainly for me, a solid scrummager, but great around the park. Yeah, Colin, you got anybody to add to
that? So mine's are probably a wee bit younger. I'm not really familiar with this. The coach at the moment through 17s, 18s. But I for me, over the last few years, and he's come down and helped this year is Ewan Stewart, in the under 14s. He's come on leaps and bounds in the last few years. He was always a big laddie, but now he's actually starting to use that to his advantage. So for me, he's got a lot of potential as well.
Absolutely, and certainly his second year at school at the moment, and he's now in the school of rugby across from me, and he takes such a leadership role and takes it really seriously. And I think, you know, it's wrong to say, but I wonder if he's a captain in the making because of that. He seems very comfortable with that leadership side of stuff as well as the playing. Talks very well to the players alongside him and motivates them by actually leading by example. Great ball carrying.
Yeah. I've got a couple of young guys that are just in S1 at the moment. Darren Montgomery and Innes Herd. So they again are two guys who primary 6, primary 7 worked really hard. Were listening to what was being asked of them and really keen and eager, which is brilliant at that age that they're just so switched on and soaking it up like a sponge.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Another player I really like, again from the Colts, because I guess the Colts and the 16-15s are the teams that I see most of. But I think Rohan Azim is a class player, and I could see Rohan as a hooker of the future. Actually, I think he's got a good build for that. Yeah. His work rate's amazing, and his play in the loose. You know, the number of times he breaks tackles and makes yardage. He's a quality player, and again, no nonsense, no fuss, just gets on with it.
Yeah. I agree with you totally with that. With all the names you're flying, and I've watched them all. The guys you were talking about there, Colin, have come to the camps, and Rowan, you know, just as you're saying, the two guys you've mentioned, Paddy, are no fuss at all. Let's just play rugby and get on with it. And it's beautiful to see, you know, that they haven't been infected by some of the nonsense that goes on when they come to other sports. You know. Obviously, we've got Murray here who would get a nosebleed in the front row, I would hope. A couple of guys that are playing alongside you at the moment, Murray. Is there anybody?
Yeah, so Ethan Palmer, he's a boy who only came along to the club this year. He was at Alloa before he came along to Kirkcaldy. He had a wee bit of a break from rugby between Alloa and Kirkcaldy, and then came back and made a really big impact throughout the season for us, because we lost one of our front rowers earlier on in the season, and then he came along, really filled the role, added a very skillful player, mobile about the park. He's also had a bit of recognition. He went on the Scottish Schools tour out to Japan.
Or did he go with a couple of boys from Buckhaven and that?
Yeah, he went out on that. So he's definitely another one to watch out for.
The good thing about that, Muzz, we're now a cashback school at Balwearie, so hopefully they'll do another tour. Maybe not to Japan, maybe somewhere like New Zealand. I'll make a suggestion. Anybody else in that squad who's...
Another one who, similar to Ben, he might not be in the front row forever. I could see him making a move to a back row, but Logan Maximuk is a player who's really coming on leaps and bounds.
He was on my list too.
Yeah, he just screws the head on, and he just gets through mountains and mountains of work. You might not see him do all the fancy stuff, but he does the basic work really well.
He strikes me as one of these hardy pups that you don't really, the quiet lad who will just take no nonsense and just sort things out when it needs to be. Played alongside a couple of them many years ago. Just the unassuming and just so powerful, so well done, and that sort of stuff.
Can I make a couple of honourable mentions? Because we're talking about future 15s. There are a couple of lads who I think have the potential to be really good club players, and maybe the first one is slightly different. Quiet player who just gets on with it. I think William Gillis has the potential to be a really good club man. He plays with huge passion. He commits to the team like nobody you've ever seen. He could do with getting a bit fitter, and I think he knows that. But he's got a good solid bulk that he brings into contact, and he gives everything for the team. I really like him, and he could develop into a good club man.
People like him, they're so good for the club as well, the culture of the club, because there's so much fun about them, and it just smiles and laughs every time I'm round about him,
And absolutely. And at the other end of the spectrum, I also really like Gavin Cook, who again is just solid, gets on with it, is relatively new to rugby, I think. Just gets stuck in, no complaints, does what's asked of him.
I went to watch the youth training last night, and they were playing touch, and Gavin threw a dummy from his own line and sprinted, and he was getting chased like mad, and there was almost a bit of panic and everything in his face. He's a strawberry blonde, and he's got that about him, and it was just so good to watch him. It was like watching, I can imagine it being a porridge advert in years to come. It was just so fantastic to watch him. There's no fear.
Yeah, as an ex-front row forward, I'd like to know who's been teaching him to dummy and sidestep. That's terrible.
From his own line, especially. Good. I've got a couple of hookers to throw in possibly as well. I think Corey Kelty is a good leader, willing to learn, getting himself in good shape at the moment. As a lot of people do when they first leave the Prentice High School, still got a wee bit of misshape about them. I think Corey's working quite hard in his fitness and will be good. He's quite strong, he's quite clever, he's a good leader. And one for me that's not really played a lot in the front row, but I think the seniors have got a lot of hope that he'll come along and really push the guys, is Adam Hardy.
I'd got him on my list, but I know that he's played prop, but he's also played back row, and I wasn't quite sure where to put him in the team. I think hooker's a good call.
We fancy him at hooker, I must admit. He came on for you, Colin, in the game I was sub, I think, against Panmure, maybe?
Yeah.
And,
yes. So obviously, because he was under 18, he wasn't front row there, but when he came on, he was a few big hits, and he really got
dynamic about the park. Really obviously a good no-nonsense rugby player about that as well.
Definitely.
I sort of had him down sort of in the Steve Thompson mould, either hooker or inside flanker. I think he does a good job at both.
Again, another guy that came down to help me on the camps, it was really good with the kids, and fingers crossed he gets a chance to expand his knowledge and come down. And I think it's going to be a big season for him, but by the end of the season, here's a prediction for you. You might be starting a couple of first 15 games at hooker. Fingers crossed, keep pushing the others hookers in the squads already. Good. Do you want to move on to middle row, second row? Yeah, everybody happy with that? Have we missed anything?
Yeah.
Well, I've missed everybody, and apologies, as we've said before, it's not deliberate. We certainly aren't saying these are the ones that have to do it, and if they don't, then it's not like that at all. So we'll go to the second row. Again, Colin, this time then, do you want to start us off with a second row?
Yeah, well, I would go with one that has played a couple of games for the twos this year, so Cammy Hanna. For me, he, particularly against Madras, he put in a heck of a shift and really did get stuck in and work hard. So I was really impressed with Cammy in the couple of games he played for us, but Madras particularly, because it was kind of like a local derby, so everybody was a wee bit feisty and a bit fired up, but he was taking a step back, that's for sure.
I was going to say that's what I would. He's a niggler. Again, strawberry blonde. He, as a referee or a touch judge, as I do most of my things now, I sort of have a delay when I'm watching rugby. It's like watching Sky and BBC if you're watching the Six Nations at the same time, and one result comes before the other one. I'm like that drag. That's maybe just because I'm like that in real life anyway. But I watched, the ball went flying away, and he was still in the middle of the ruck. He gained somebody a wee nudge and saying, I may be 18, son, but I'm not going anywhere. And I thought, wow, oof. And I think sometimes folk can get a lift from that as players, when there's somebody willing to stand their ground for you. And not throwing fists in and all that sort of nonsense, but just saying, nah, he did
do that a wee bit when we played up in Carnoustie, one of the other games he played, but he kind of backed down a wee bit after that. It's maybe finding there's some big boys in there as well.
One or two, that's the thing, when you get to growing up rugby, you get your age saying, I'm no running, I'm just going to start fighting. Paddy, have you got any second rows?
Yeah, so I'd got Cammy down as well. I was just one of the points I think to follow up on. You mentioned leadership earlier, and there are different types of leadership. One is a very sort of vocal leadership, encouraging people. Others, just as you've just described, leading by example and just setting a rock that your team can build around. And there's places for all of those people. I think there's a few players that I think we'll discuss, and some we've already discussed, where I think what they'll do as they mature is they'll grow into controlling their aggression better. I think as teenagers, we all go through a bit where you're learning how to control the aggression. But you notice when you look at players like Dylan Hartley or Kyle Sinclair or the big second row that Scotland used to have. Joe Marler as well, but
Jim Hamilton,
Danny Grucock, who were all fantastic players, but for Hartley and Marler and Sinclair, they had to really get their aggression in check before they became really good players.
Well, I couldn't agree with that more, and I'll revert back to some of the teams that have been named by some of our respected colleagues from Kirkcaldy, and a couple of names that bounced out of that. As a Glenrothes player that played against Kirkcaldy for a number of years, I knew if Gordon Hanna and Jock Mitchell were playing, we could possibly get them down to 14 quite quickly by niggling, getting under the skin, just cheating and pushing them, when the ball was away, and niggling two or three of us nudging because of Graham. Hannah was massive, so I was going to take it on my own, and I could never catch Jock Mitchell. So it was always when the ball was miles away. So and they did well. They grew through the seasons. But as you're saying, I think you're right, Paddy. I think there's a lot of maturity coming through, and I think the leadership, not only from the players but the coaches and the team managers, helps with that. At the right time, sometimes making a wee substitute. If they're maybe just at a point where you could maybe see the tick, 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 tick. A wee hook, and off you come. Because you'll be back on in 10 minutes when you calm down.
Yeah, it's that bit of game awareness, isn't it? That you can, if you're the best player in the world, you're no good if you're sitting on the touchline for 10 minutes. It doesn't help the team.
Which worries me about the New Zealand game, substituting or red carding somebody for 20 minutes and then being able to bring a sub on.
Yeah.
More scenarios like Brian O'Driscoll back down the Lions 2 years ago, where he's the danger man, take him out. I'll go for 20 minutes and bring somebody else on.
Yeah.
Why? They're normally quite switched on with their leading stuff. Aye, good.
So the names I'll throw two names at you that I think, and to spare his blushes, I think obviously Murray's a bit short at the moment, but if he could only put a bit of height on, he might make it as a second row.
Yeah.
It's a lack of stats. He's only about a foot and a half taller than me at the moment, so it's clearly not enough.
On that one, I think we need to kind of prepare beforehand about that debut that's going to happen for the name you just mentioned, because for me, Murray's always giving people advice. He's always got a wee comment, a wee dig, a wee bit of advice. So for me, I think if we're going to miss a trick unless it's tickets, that's all tickets. We might need to take the hedge back a wee bit as well to fit the in, because it's 100%. When Murray makes his debut for the ones, it's going to be the biggest crowd Kirkcaldy Rugby has ever had.
I'm refereeing that game.
Giving him a wee bit of advice.
Hopefully, his dad will come out of retirement and play alongside him in the second row. That's be the information for you, Murray. You'd enjoy.
So to move on, while we all jot down the advice we're going to give him when he starts. The other name that I had was
longer than this podcast.
The other name I had was James Moran, who has always, I think, performed really well for the teams he's played for.
Yeah, again as well. On and off the pitch. He seems to take that responsible role on. Yeah,
and actually somebody I didn't put down, but comes into this mix. I didn't put down because actually he hasn't played a lot for the club this season because he's been away at school. But Harris McLeod, obviously.
Again, hugely recognised. It's such a shame for him this year. He was in the under-17 squad and that with Strathallan into the Scotland setup, and then the COVID took over him and Thomas. And you think, what's in? But again, I'm confident they'll both carry on. And do some great things. There's some cracking names there.
I've got another couple as well.
Fire on.
I'm not too sure if they are second rows, but certainly when they were in Wee Blues, they were quite tall and athletic, who you would think would maybe slot into that position. So Ryan Daniels.
Oh, right.
And Jack Vagers.
I'd got Jack down, but I think Jack's playing on the wing now, is he not?
Is he?
Hang on. Oh, no, sorry. I can't remember where he's playing. He's certainly somebody I've watched play and thought he's very good.
But, so I'm based in mine on Wee Blues, so that I might get the positions completely wrong, guys.
It's maybe a bit unfair on Murray asking him, so I'll maybe throw a couple in. I've got one to throw in. Big Igor Segula. I think rugby's been very good for him, and that he's built up his English through it, and his friends are good round about him. He's a tremendous ball carrier, very athletic. Has been up to the academy a couple of times, throwing some weights about, and I think the more we can encourage him to do that, the better. He must be, what height is he? Ollie, is he bigger than you, Muzz?
Oh, he's a bit, a wee bit bigger than me, and then
is he a couple of years older, a year older than you?
A year older, and then with him as well, there was Callum Hudson, who's the same size as both of us as well, and he's another tremendous ball carrier. Gets about the pitch, and he's played a bit in the centre, a bit like Harris as well, so he's got quite a good all-round skill set.
Yep, and I think we mustn't forget, you don't have to be 6'8" or whatever to play in the second row. I think some of the most industrious second rows, certainly we've had in the seconds, Gary Ritchie and others like him. I think even my laddie played second row for you a couple of times, Colin, 5 and maybe 11 stone. The heart of some of these guys gets them through. So I think there'll be some guys we mentioned here in the front row and the back row who are imagined could obviously go into the second row and do a job in the future as well. Yeah,
because I got Igor down as number 8 because I know he's turned out there, but I it's interchangeable really. You see it now more and more at internationals. People like Courtney Laws swapping in between.
I think 4-6-8 is becoming a very sort of similar position as sort of 7 and 13 or 7 and 12. Bar actually standing where they stand in the line, there's not much of a difference to where they're playing. Any more? Muzz? We kept you quiet there, but that was deliberate, obviously, because you.
Yeah, I think you've covered them all.
Don't name yourself, Murray. There is. It's really difficult for Wee Blues as well, but there is a young guy, Scotty Terblanche, who joined us about 18 months ago. So he's obviously got a bit of South African blood in him as well.
Yeah,
and he's got a lot of potential. I think if he sticks at it, I think he could do a job as well.
Quite a famous name, the third Black's name. Nice. Good. I wonder if his uncle will come and play. Good. Okay. If everybody's happy then, and again, apologies if you didn't make it, but it's just we haven't had a chance to see you. We've forgotten and that sort of stuff. But back row. Should we move on to the back row? Murray, do you want to start us off this time and go right?
Yeah, I'll kick this one off. So it's a player from the under 13s this year, and it's Kawie's son, Aaron. I'm not sure Kawi will be particularly happy that he might end up in the forwards, but Aaron's a very industrious player. He's another one who just gets down, does the hard work. He's another strong ball carrier. Because when he was in P67 in Colin's team, him and Darren were some of the most ferocious ball carriers that you saw.
100%.
It's quite strange. I would love to have seen his dad play in his youth. Obviously, I didn't get to see. I've seen McCurry, see him at the start of the season play for the seconds in that festival of rugby that we had. And watching him and Quinny destroy teams, destroy first 15s, just with two of them hitting 30-metre passes off both hands, and all of a sudden we've got the ball in two passes out to the wing, and defences haven't got a clue what's going on. And Cowie's knowledge, and if Aaron gets any of that sort of wisdom, what a player he's going to be. What a player.
I've actually got Cowie doing in my 10 years' time, he'll still be playing.
He would be the same as he must be, is he 40 now, is he? 40?
I wouldn't want to say it in case I hurt his feelings, but far away.
He's not going to He's good. What about yourself then, Paddy?
So you've stolen my thunder a bit with two, because two of the ones that I had down as back row, we've put somewhere else. So Adam Hardy and Igor, I had both down as potential back row. The player I really like for the way he plays, but also for the maturity and leadership, is Finlay Barker, who I think is stands out as, in the way that Thomas actually did in his age group, as being a really calm, level-headed leader on the pitch who does things that his team needs. I think he's got real potential.
Picture him behind the post when something's gone wrong, just saying,
yeah,
calm down, guys. We've got this, and I think folk would believe him.
Yeah, because he's done that in a team that's got some quite volatile players, and so it's needed firmness and also a bit of tact as well, and I think he's handled it really well. So yeah, I've been really impressed by him, and he's a quality number 7, I think.
Yeah, well, I look forward to seeing him playing this year, and then again, next year when it's time to step up. Colin, you've got a grin on your face there, and I don't know if you've got wind or if you've got.
I'm just. Let me turn the mic off.
Tempy in the swear jar.
I'm thinking there's a young guy. I've maybe got him completely out of position, and I don't know how much he still plays. But there's a young guy, Francis, in the probably under 15 now.
Francis Whittemore, that will be, Francis.
Yeah, he'll be going up to Colts this year.
So for me, he's a quality player, and he reminds me of Stevie Milne, where he's just a wee terrier. He's going out, when he goes for that ball, he's coming out with it.
Yeah,
I've seen him play. He's always stood out to me because he's actually a bit like my own son in that he looks like a wind would break him in half.
Yeah.
Max was the same at that age, but he tackles about 3 weight grades above what it looks like he should be able to do. And I've seen him play number 9, and I think he's been playing mainly in the midfield this year.
I'm sure he has been playing in the centre, aye.
Yeah, but he brings that same. It's just a bit of real solidity that you don't expect, and he's very quick. He's really quick. So I think you're right. In the same way that Max bulked up and moved to open side. Yeah. I think I hadn't thought of that actually, but when you mentioned that, I think that would be a good fit for him, because I'd got him on my list at 13, but I think that's a good call.
Yeah.
He just reminds me so much of Stevie Milne, the same kind of build, same kind of shape, but he's got that tenacity.
Yeah. Can I put a watch this space in? I watched a young lad coming through from Balwearie who never played rugby. And I think the thing about the school of rugby is would I rather go outside and play rugby with Corgi for 2 lessons, or would I rather do physics and French. Well, I do get a lot of people who maybe don't want to be at the rugby, but want to be at the rugby more than they don't want to be at the French lessons and that sort of stuff. And this guy was a goalkeeper in football and played and played and played. Really, really nice guy. And picked up the rugby ball and went, oh, I like this. You could just see the difference in him. But not just that, it then became very, as we've talked about a lot, a leader. When we're doing other rugby drills and that, he would go away with the ones that maybe weren't very experienced and just run through stuff with them. He took his time to share what he'd learned. And it was really, really positive. And I think, certainly for me, another one is going to challenge 6 or 7 for when we get to senior rugby. He's going to be a fantastic player. I do like Archie Chisholm. I don't know if you've come across Archie yet. I don't know if you'll have met him. I wouldn't have thought he was a wee blue. Murray, you could maybe tell us, because obviously...
No, I don't think he was.
We've picked up several football players, and there's a few more in my list here from the school who've come across. And I think the good thing about the 15, 16 at the moment, not only a good team, they're great pals, and they sort of go in a group. Whatever they do it together. So we've done very well out of that age group with the rugby. Looking at them last night, there was 2 half pitches of under 15, 16. So it was great to see.
I agree with you about Archie. I've got him down, but again, he's one of these ones who I think it's quite hard to predict where he'll end up playing, because I think he's played back 3 for a lot of this season.
He played full back a lot of the season,
So it will depend. Yeah, it will depend how he develops and what opportunities come up in the next few years. I think, I think one of the good things about the setup is there is that flexibility where people can move around, and we've had players in the past who've made quite dramatic positional changes quite late in the day. So, I'm thinking of players who played number 9 and then at Colts suddenly moved to second row and flourished. So, I think Archie's again good attitude, as you say.
I think so. The good thing about this, the bad thing for Don Burns, I think we're going to have to get 9 sets of strips. We're going to have so many players in a couple of years' time playing senior. It's going to be phenomenal. So Alan Dick, get your sponsor cap out, as we're going to do. Any more?
I've got a couple of Blues as well. I've got a couple of Blues. So he's not quite the same size as his brother, but he makes up for it because he has to use the top 2 inches. So I've got Ewan Oliver as potential there in the back row. Along with one of the P6s, Ewan Apps.
Leslie's laddie, aye.
So a couple of guys who might not be their position, but I think just because of their size ratio just now, that's where I would kind of maybe think about them.
Has Ewan not been predicted to be taller than you, Murray?
Well, this is a debate. My granddad is the only one that thinks that I'm going to be taller than him. Everyone else thinks he's going to be taller than me.
Granddad's always right, the one that I'm thinking of,
Yeah, he's always good at predicting things. So he thinks Ewan's going to be smaller, and he thinks that he'll either be a back row or centre. So
same thing.
I think the thing is, I always talk to wee Blues when they come back. Because they're so wee, when they're growing, they maybe come back for 6 to 7, and suddenly they're dropping the ball.
Yeah.
It's because their arms now grown an inch longer, so rather than catching the fingertips, it's hitting them on the wrist.
Yeah.
It was Muzz, I'm sure, instead of hitting him on his wrist, it was hitting his elbow because he'd grown that much.
I would tell you a story again, another Glenorchy story. I remember pre-season training, and we'd been away, and there was a young lad playing. It was older than me, but a young lad playing for Glenorchy at the time called Ian Paxton. So Ian had been away for the summer and done some training, and there was another guy. He was the Colts number 8 at the time. I think Ian, a Beath High School player. And big skinny Wilson, Brian Wilson, was the number 8 for the first 15. Big skinny, was big and skinny, but huge, great rugby player, lovely man.
Was that before he was in the Beach Boys? Yeah.
What's that? Sorry.
Was that before he was in the Beach Boys, or after?
That's right. At the same time, Glenorchy's club is full of good vibrations, mate. That's all I'm going to say. Bud and boom, I'm here all week. So it was old-fashioned days of training, and we did a lot of fireman's carries and kiddie back races and stuff like that. And they put the 2 number 8s together. And I remember Skinny had thrown him about over his shoulder for years, and he tried to pick Packy up the next year when he'd hit 18 and done training properly, and basically sank into the ground. But then, so you're absolutely right about body shape changing and stuff like that. Packy from 17 to 18 went up like 3 stone and went up a couple of inches, and there he goes. You know, he goes on a couple of British Lions trips and probably regarded as the best number 8 Scotland have ever had. You know, and so he changed from potentially. You know, they were looking at him maybe for the wing because he was very fast and he had great endurance and speed. He ended up he got offered a contract, or not contract, but he got offered Heriots that next year as second row, and obviously took the Selkirk deal because they said number 8. You know.
I also think it's just worth mentioning. There's quite a good rite of passage as a coach, particularly if you follow a team from Wee Blues all the way through. That you go from being the biggest, the fastest, and the most skillful, and there's a point in the mid-teens where it switches around. And so I remember very clearly watching the video of a match when I'd had to go onto the pitch to sort something out. And standing back and watching the video, I suddenly realised I was the smallest player on the pitch, and that if I'd been brought on as a sub, I'd have let the team down horribly because they're all better than me. And it's quite sobering because you know there's no going back from it.
Tough one. I've got another name to throw in, and it's probably on everybody's list, but it might not be in the back row. I thought of Jonathan Simpson.
So I've got him in the next. I've got him in the halfbacks, but he has played back row as well. So very much. Jonathan's
a lovely movement of the ball, sweet player. I think would be maybe your sort of Martin Williams link number 7 rather than the dogged sort of fetcher that Sam Warburton was, and Hamish Watson and all that. You know, but I think he's one of these ones. I think you would probably try and find a place for him. Obviously, you play outside of Murray,
Yeah, you could maybe even one that you can maybe see him at is maybe even hooker. The way that hookers are kind of moving to now.
I did that at the Mouth tournament. Didn't speak. Fine.
Just when you see the hookers now, they're just like extra centres or back rowers, the way that they get about the pitch.
Paddy started the mould for that all the years back, you know.
Absolutely. I think you have to remember that that hooker is the best position on the pitch, and obviously where the most skillful players are. But you have to have a certain. I think you have to bang your head off the wall a few times to get into the right mood to play it. So it doesn't suit everybody. And I think Jonathan's maybe played too many games at halfback and got the taste of glory. So maybe he wouldn't go for hooker. But I think he could play it. I think you're right. I'm just not sure he'd want to. But I've got a lot of time for Jonathan because he had quite a tough time a couple of years ago when early teens getting attitude sorted out, and he really stuck with it. I did some 1-to-1 sessions with him, and I think he was sort of struggling with frustration at a team game and maybe the team not performing the way he wanted them to, and he came through that, and you develop so much character from that sort of experience.
My worry about him playing halfback would be his off the mark pace. I think he can run, but I don't know if he's got that sort of 10 metres. Yeah. Sorry, Cole.
No, I was just going to say that sometimes what Paddy's talking about there is a symptom of Wee Blues, where if you've got somebody like Jonathan who was at that age group, he maybe tries to do a bit too much on his own, and that maybe was what happened when he moved up.
I think that's right. I've seen that. I think the classic example of that for us, somebody who's now a really good, solid and consistent first-team player is Owen Bonner, who tried to do everything when we first moved up full pitch, and you can't do it. And it gets very, very frustrating trying to do everything. So, it's a real challenge, that.
Yeah.
I've possibly got one. I thought Colin might have said it, but I wonder if Colin's maybe thinking maybe a different position for him. But young Callum Gibb, Gavin Mackenzie's nephew and Callum Mackenzie's grandson, he just now he could probably play most positions on the pitch, but I could maybe see him in the back row. He is another ferocious player, kind of gets stuck in about it, and isn't really afraid to go for it.
That's one where I can't put a face to the name. I know the name, and
I've seen him about the club and that. What was the other one? The only other one I had written was Logan Hunter. Murray, you probably know him better than me.
Yeah, I don't know Logan that well.
No. Logan's certainly got a lot of potential as well, I think.
He was another one that went on that Japan tour.
Yeah. I just think, I remember being at Leavenmouth tournament, I think the year before I became the ground officer, Julie had asked me to referee it. Harris was playing, and I thought Harris is probably the only boy I've seen at Buckhaven that I would maybe say, you come to Glenrothes, you come to Kirkcaldy, because a few of them were at Glenrothes at the time. And then Logan just came, and I thought to myself, wow, this boy's raw, but he's really got something about him. And he was down at training last night. He's been injured quite a bit last season. Down at training last night, I spoke to him after it. I think he's left school now, looking for he want to be an apprentice tattooist, which will be interesting. So cheap rates, for us, when we get our mowing the blues what's our test.
You have to check his spelling then.
Absolutely. I was unfortunate. As a boy, I'd met many times. I'll not name names because when I was in the police, he did his own swastika on his forehead in the mirror. But of course, as always, the mirror is reversed. So very unfortunate that it was going the wrong way. So just be careful when it comes to tattoos and stuff like that. Anyway, shall we move on to halfbacks? So here we're going, again, lots of leadership, lots of decision making. Who we're going to start with? Murray, you got a name of halfback for us, or 9 or 10?
I'll chuck in 2 to start with, if that's okay. A pair in who are playing together just now, Ryan Mellon and Hamish Chisholm, who Corgi both knows pretty well from the school, and I'm pretty sure all of us will know Ryan. I'm not sure if Colin will know Hamish, but very kind of very kind of different players in terms of the way that they play, but they link up very well. Hamish is a bit of a live wire, wants to run everything, just play it for, whereas Ryan's that wee bit slower, just a bit more like a kind of Greg Laidlaw and a Ali Price.
That's a ridiculous say to somebody. What I will say about Ryan, having refereed him, he's a scrum half. He whinges from the second you start the second minute. You think, oh God, maybe just be a decision just to see if it shuts you up. Yeah, he really, yep, and I think that's great for scrum halves. It really helps the forwards. So that's a good couple of players, mate. That's a really good couple of players. I'll say that. So Paddy, you got any half?
I'd got both Ryan and
the Glory Hunters.
So I'd got both Ryan and Hamish down on my list, and I agree with you. I think the mark of a good scrum half is a player that the front row want to catch and hit, and I think it usually goes with the position. And our best scrum halves have always been sort of a bit nippy, can read a game, and being nippy is what you want them to do. You think about players like Mike Phillips, who the opposition always wanted to have a fight with.
Yeah, he was right up for it as well, because he was bigger than most of them.
Yes, that's right. And of course, similar, one of the best scrum halves for years, Youth van der Westerheden.
Yeah, and Gary Armstrong, my year, Gary Armstrong was just a nugget.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man,
So with that in mind, the other player I'd got on the list was Robbie Penman.
I had Robbie down further out, certainly. But
but he's a player who's played scrum half, and I think I've only really seen him play scrum half and maybe 10. But I think he's got potential. He's a player I would like to see sort of move up. I think there's a point with a lot of youth players where it's important to encourage them to start playing for the team more than they play for themselves, because I think it almost always improves the way they play. If they're you get a sort of certain self-confidence, and you're playing for your team, and then it makes your game just flourish. And I think Robbie would really benefit from that step up, and I'm sure it'll come.
Yeah, definitely. Colin, you got any there on your list?
I was actually wondering how I was going to put the names in, because I was thinking about nippy sweeties and all that kind of stuff as well, and I thought, I'm allowed to say that.
No, you're not. I'm a referee, I am.
No, I had Ryan Mellon and Nairn Ritchie. So for me,
Gary's laddie, aye.
Just passionate players with that fire in their belly that you just can't teach you. So you need that wee spark in there and that wee bit of aggression.
Aye.
It's just taming it, I guess, keeping it under control.
Yeah, I've got a couple to throw in, and I think one's a 9, and I'm not sure. I don't think Murray will agree with me, but Thomas's wee brother Ronan, I think could make quite a good 9.
Yeah, I don't think I've really seen him play much. I looked at his name when I was going through the lists, and I know the name, but I can't put a performance to it, and that's just because of the lack of rugby at that level.
For me, watching him at the school, he's got all the skills, definitely. I think he's the same as Thomas in that he's such a good sportsman. There's 2 pools at the moment, and the football seems to be winning it at the moment, but hopefully he'll see the success his brothers had and maybe jump in. But I really think he's got a good rugby brain. And I think 9 or 10, he's got that sort of measured approach to playing.
I think
one of your wee Blues.
I had him in the same position as his brother, to be honest. I put him in it. Like you say, I think he's just a natural sportsman, and he could play anywhere. If he sticks with rugby, he'll be a quality player.
And that is the thing. I think we have to make it, and I think we are making it attractive when we come back down to the club, and that's good. The only other one I had was Rory Fraser. I think maybe Murray, you think he's a 12, do you?
Yeah. Well, he's one who's growing at a rapid rate of knots just now, so he might end up like his uncle and his dad, closer to the forwards.
You never know.
So
I
did put him in the back row, to be honest. I had his name down as the back row.
Right.
But just now he's doing really well at 12. He was captain in Glenalmond this year, and then when he came to play for us, it was just he added a real difference to the back line just because he's got that option. He's like an extra 10 at 12, but he's also got the size to...
Yeah, I'd got him at 12 as well. That's where I've seen him play this season, and he stands out. He brings a real bit of iron to the midfield, and I think a bit of generalship to the midfield, which is good to see as well. So I think that's possible, depending on how he develops. That might be his position.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a natural move on to centre then, if we're looking at...
So I'll just jump in with a wee blue there. I think, obviously, I'm only really looking at P6s and wee blues because in 10 years' time they should be at that kind of age. So Charlie Williamson, for me, is...
yeah. Charlie's
a quick, intelligent little player.
Fantastic movement. You watch him when he comes into the camps. We play a sort of avoidance game, even just house and stuff like that. The way he runs, so good. Absolutely so good.
Gets through the weakest gap and what?
That's a good call. That's a good call.
I'll just, with Colin saying wee Blues, 2 more have sprung to mind for me. For a bit younger wee Blues, but when you see them in their own team, they stand out by a big bit. So it's Sophia Sanft and Mitchell Tasker, who
Sophia could play for Scotland.
Yeah, Sophia, when you
last year, and wow, and I mean, senior rugby players playing a long time, going, oh my God, I couldn't catch her. Just the movement, absolutely brilliant, better than her mum and her dad.
And then
she's got quite a good heritage, so
she's naturally sporty as well. The way she's just so, like you say, so agile and so mobile.
Yeah, and then Mitchell's the same. He's naturally very sporty. Just hopefully we encourage him to keep playing at rugby because he's pretty interested in tennis just now as well. So he's very similar to Sophia. Just manages to get through the smallest of gaps. A really skillful hand-eye coordination and.
Yeah. Oh no, it's going to be so excellent to watch these kids growing up. Coming through the ranks and that, and hopefully making it, right through and playing senior rugby for the club. Right, we've only got centres in the back 3 to do then. So centres, Paddy, you want to have a quick think about centre?
Yeah. So again, 2 of my picks have been picked elsewhere. I'd got Francis and Rory down in centre. The other one from the under-18s, I got Jed Main down in the centre. Jed's had a really.
I look forward to Jed stepping up this year. I think it'll be good for him. There's some good other centres out there who you can learn from. There's Mark Love and Connor Young bring some fantastic experience and some real power. And again, then up into the first. Finlay Smith, I think, is looking to move up towards centre this season. So with Jed alongside him, I think it's a good mix, a good foil for each other.
Yeah, the other player who could, I would like to see him develop a bit more, a bit more linking with the team, because he's very quick, very good speed and line breaks. Is Reece Brown, who's
I had him down the back three. I don't know. I would like to maybe see him start at full back for a bit for me, and then maybe move up into the more responsibilities as he gets a bit older. But yeah, I think Reece has got a lot of potential.
I think full back would sort of deal with that issue that he has at the moment, that I think his link play could do with developing, because it is his breaking and his making ground is really good. His commitment in the tackle is really good. He's got that issue that I never had, because I was never fast enough, but of very fast players, that there are times when he just needs to slow down a little bit, actually, because he's up so quick that he can overstep. So I think a bit of coaching and development among seniors
last night as well at the training, and he's saying that very unfortunate that COVID thing kicked in for him, as he was just about to start his apprenticeship, and it never came through. But I think his dad's managed to get him an apprenticeship, heating engineering. So I think working for a living and a bit of structure like that will just set him down, and then he'll get to enjoy the rugby. It'll not be the main part of his life. I think it'll be a good, fun hobby that he can play and enjoy himself, and once he gets to an age, have a couple of beers with the guys. Colin, you've got any centres coming through there?
Well, I've hadn't actually seen him, but I had Jed down as well. I've heard a lot of good things about him, so we're looking forward to him coming up. I had Ronan in there, which we've already spoken about, and from the wee Blues, William Smart. So for me, he's another exceptional young player.
Depends how he falls out. He's another one for me that could end up either hooker or back row. I think he's got a lot of determination about him. Good at the camps, very skillful. We have to separate him and Charlie and these boys when it comes to camps, because put the two of them together, it would just be a
riot.
Yeah, it would be.
Williams, he's stocky as well. He's that strong. So.
His dad, he's not going to look much different for his dad. Maybe a bit fatter. Muzz, you got anybody?
I think we've mentioned most of the ones that would kind of spring to mind for me.
I've got one in the Colts who's just come back from injury, Kai McLean. I think it was good to see Kai train last night. I still think he's got a wee bit of an issue. He was running and down the hill last night, and you can just see a wee bit of a hobble. I think he's just about back to full scratch.
I wasn't sure how recovered he was, but he was a name that jumped out to me.
Rory Mill. I've watched Rory at school. Rory's a talented player. Has got great speed, good tackler, and what he does already, we've seen lots of players come to the club who look exciting and stuff like that, but then when it comes to the basics, we'd rather do 3 or 4 side steps and just pass it and let the person outside score. Rory Mill was not like that. Rory Mill can run and score tries, but if there's a 2-on-1, he'll make sure it works. He's a clever player, and I think for the future, he's certainly one to look out for. I met his wee brother for the first time properly last night as well, and I think his wee brother maybe got a bit about him as well.
I think they could be linking up in the back three in the years to come.
Yeah, I had Daniel Carr, but I don't know if he maybe on folks' radar on the wing.
I'd say on the wing for him.
Daniel played 12 for me at the school, and phenomenal, great pace. But he will run 140 metres to score a 20-metre try. His arcs. I hope he's good at science or maths or something at school. He's got big arcs and that sort of stuff. But yeah, good player. Very fast, very skillful. Loves scoring tries. And I don't think there's any harm in that. I think there's a lot of people, and I was probably one of them, who probably set up more tries than I scored. But if Daniel gets the ball as a chance, he's going to score. And I think as he gets older, maybe moving out to 13 or the wing or something like that. Cool. Lots of good names there as well. So we go on to the back three, and that will be us sort of finished. Wing, fullback sort of thing. Colin, you got any words of wisdom for us?
I'm not too sure about positioning again, but I had the 2 Mill brothers. So I had Rory and Ewan, both in wingers, and obviously Jordan. As well, number 18 for the game for the 2s, and definitely a pacey, handy player.
He was another one, same as you with Jed, and that's what I'd heard the name bouncing about, seeing him at training, and then we ran our own Colt 7s last year, the under 18s. Him and Thomas ran riot. boys against Perth and Dunfermline who were Calais and then the Scotland squad, and these two just tore them apart. They couldn't touch them, and I'm thinking to myself, how are they guys not in Scotland squads and these boys from Perth and Dunfermline? No disrespect them, I'm sure they were great players, but they won a patch on these two. These two guys were.
Jordan's great quality, and something that we've talked about for other players, he's got fantastic attitude as well. And he's quick, but he's a really good tackler as well.
Yeah. I think he loves it. I think he loves the club, and he loves he's got great pals. I spoke to all the guys coming up on a Zoom chat, and he just sits quietly. But when he does say something, it's really quite decent what he says. But he does always talk on the pitch, and it's great to have that sort of pace again coming through. For a while there, our wingers, we had like 4 centres. We had 12, 13, 14, 11 were all centres sort of thing in the first, which was great. But when it came to the out and out pace, we didn't really have that, and I think it's coming back now with OJ and a few others and that sort of stuff. And these guys we're seeing coming through, there's some fast rugby players, not just fast guys, fast rugby players coming through.
And I think I was going to make that point. I think it's important. Fullback can be a position that really exposes you, and to have people who are comfortable playing fullback, it makes a huge difference. And Jordan's one of those players who, because he's top quality and reliable, just by being there, he boosts the team. You can see the team has more belief just because he's actually there to play the match.
Yeah. And I think, given his due, Finlay Smith's done that last season for the first fullback. Yeah. Very similar sort of. I think Jordan's faster than Finlay, but Finlay's more of a footballer, if you like. I see Finlay at sort of 10 or 12, playing first or second 5/8, as the New Zealanders call it. Because he could move the ball as well. But, any more then at the back?
Sorry, carry on, Muzz.
You go first, Paddy.
The other name I'd got down was Jake Sandilands.
I've got Jake on mine. Jake's tremendous. Jake is tremendous. He's a house of fire. He's so much fun to watch. You never know what's going to happen when Jake's playing. But I remember him at Glenrothes playing for Balwearie, and we were quite a young team. We were always quite a young. We were always a second-year team, and we played in an under-15 second, third-year tournament. And we drew with Wade, I think, who were mainly a third-year team, and they had a couple of guys. It was a 60-metre hurdler or sprinter or something like that, and he broke down the hill at Glenrothes, and Jake just came on a diagonal. And it looked like, I don't know if it looked like he was giving up, and I just shouted at him. So did the old principal teacher, Mary Delgado, "Come on, Jake!" And it just couldn't lift, and he smashed this guy off the pitch. And I thought to myself, wow, I'd always thought Jake was one of these guys that just played, but no, he has got something about him. There's a lot of pace there, there's a lot of physicality, and I think the rugby's good for him. I think the rugby is really good for him. Yeah, I had Jake down with me as well. Good. Any more, guys?
Sorry, carry on, Murray. I'll keep interrupting you. You go ahead.
One that I'm not sure if it'll stay on the wing. I think he'll move into 13 this year. Is Callum Patterson, another one who we've got through the school. A footballer who wasn't enjoying football.
Get chased by every football club in Scotty. Employed by them to bring players back.
And Callum's just a really skillful player. He's got pace. He's got a good sidestep. He's a good footballer. Yeah, and he's good in defence. And he's kind of just slid into rugby, and it's been seamless.
Yeah, a very, very gifted, sporty young man. The only other one I'd said here now, he won't like me saying this, but I would like to see him play fullback, is Callum Finney, Derek's laddie. And Callum's another really gifted footballer. He's got that challenge at the moment. Plays in Kirkcaldy on a Saturday. I think so. Could probably play on a Sunday for the youth section and 15 under 16s. I think he is very natural. Again, good kick of the ball, good runner, steady runner, and reads the game very well. I think 15 would really suit him again. I think he's really keen to be at 9 and 10, which I think he could get to. Another one with these, just give it some time to learn how to play rugby a little bit. You've got the gifts, and just use that more. Is there anybody we've missed out, do you think, in the back three, guys? Or
I put a question mark down because this is one where I think I'm thinking of the right person, but it's a name that jumps out to me that's been mentioned. Joe Devereux. Yeah.
Joe's playing for the Colts just now, I think, isn't he? Young, I think he is a young Colt.
young Colt. Yeah, so I think he's somebody I think has got potential to develop as well.
Yeah. I've never really seen Joe playing, but I know he's always down training at the club and that sort of stuff. So yeah, listen, if everybody's quite happy with that, and again, there's hundreds more. We could probably go into this for 5 hours and talk about everybody, but I just think it's so reassuring, and the club's future is in such great hands with the players, and obviously if the coaches can bring them through, what an opportunity this club's got to build.
I think that's right. The other thing I thought would be worth emphasising is that I think rugby, more than most other sports, is that you can't be the best player without a really good team around you. And from my point of view as youth convener, the thing that I really like about our youth teams at the moment is that they are very, very solid units. That they turn up, they turn up regularly. They're very committed to each other. And so for all the names that we've mentioned today, there are probably 2 or 3 names we haven't mentioned for each position, who make a huge contribution to the way the teams play. And that to me is something that stands out in Kirkcaldy at the senior level as well, because the number of teams you've played where they have prima donnas who spend half the time shouting at their own teammates, and it's something I used to hate as a rugby player.
Yeah.
And you always know that if you've got a team that bicker between themselves, that you'll score ahead effect.
I'll use Hamilton seniors for an example. They've got probably one of the most gifted rugby players in Scottish rugby playing at 10 for them, who is like a bullfighter in defence, But and I think when we beat them at the club Murray by some, I think we scored about 50 points. And most of the traffic came through him, and he could be inspirational for that team, but we just got under his skin again, and that sort of stuff. And I don't think, as you're saying, Josh Laird was a fantastic player for the seniors this year. I think he realised the importance of being part of the team and only influenced himself when he could or when he had to, rather than try and take the whole thing on himself. Great leadership qualities there from the captain. Colin, you and I spoke about a few names who are maybe just out of the Colts a season or two, who will still be playing in 10 years' time, when these guys we've just talked about are in the early to mid-20s. I wonder if our list is the same.
So do you want to go through a couple of the girls first, or do you want to go through?
Yeah, definitely.
So there's a couple of girls who have been through the Blues, the Wee Blues, who will be no doubt first 15 players is the Hay twins. Yeah,
good rugby culture. We've been playing rugby since they were able to walk. Just about, Vary's got an influence on them, as she has on all us refs and coaches. She's really passionate about her family and our rugby club doing well.
I think they had the advantage where they did play all the way through the Wee Blues, so they were playing games right up to P7, S1 type thing. So another couple of names were Ellie.
Yeah.
Ellie, do you know Ellie?
Training last night and did not look out of place.
And Ella as well. Is it Ella Fox?
Yeah.
They're 2 players who maybe were only really in the Wee Blues for a couple of games, but I would like to get back to having them down there and playing games when they're young enough to still do that. Yeah,
there's a couple of girls come from the school who played other sports. So Rebecca Carroll, she was the captain of the girls' team that went through at Falkirk and won the plate in a tournament that we just threw a team together at the last minute. Mm-hmm. Rebecca's a very dexterous player, having played a lot of netball. And then there's Amy, who comes across and plays for Burnt Island as well. I think she is. Amy's rough around the edges at the moment, and I think enjoys the camaraderie of the rugby, and I think she's got a chance to do something. Obviously, Marcus Salt's wee sister. Really has got an opportunity to do something, I think. And the big thing will be is keeping a hold of her. Because of her age, certainly we've got quite a good number at 14 and a good number at 16. I think she's older than that. She's Eloise, eh?
Yeah, she's a wee bit older. Eh?
Yeah, but I think she's got the potential, and obviously her parents are really supportive when it comes to that sort of stuff, and they're really keen for the kids to do as well as possible at the rugby, as we're saying. There was a wee lassie turned up at the school at Balweary. I was teaching first year rugby. I said, we'll just play a game of, we take them on, we do some really cat and mouse drills, we at the high school especially, we do a lot of blue stuff, games rather than we're not playing, we're not doing passing drills. We'll just run about and daft. The wee lassie just run in and think, wow, we look as a lassie. Coming to second year, I think, and hopefully she comes back to the club. The trouble is she doesn't speak, well, she speaks very little English. But Anastasia, she's from Moldova, I think. Have you met her yet, Murray?
No, I don't think so.
Wow, she'd learned to play touch rugby in Moldova, and I had to remove her from the girls that were playing it. I put her against the boys because she was, every time she got it, a bit like Jennifer from your age group, just a fantastic athlete. But Jennifer's very athletic in that she does a lot of athletics and I think is worried about injury. Jennifer Allen, who's Sandra Laird's niece, I think. A lot of good lasses. Keisha. Keisha's another really sporty, does a lot of martial arts, does a lot of netball. But there are lots of young lasses out there into their teens now, where we can lose a lot of girls at that age, unfortunately, and it's just what Cassie and Barry are doing at that age group, and obviously yourself with the wee Blues, Colin, is vital that we give them the opportunity to come and express themselves. Whether that, there's a couple of other girls who played. Who were the girls who were at the School of Rugby with you, Murray? There were a couple more. Lucy,
Ossie, and Lily and Shania.
That's the ones. Shania was quite sporty, good dancers. They were all dancers. So they were all very athletic and could move in that. But actually, Shania was quite a good tackler. She was quite aggressive when she wanted to be. I'm sure she nearly got into a fight in that Falkirk town. Especially when they're a pupil from 4th year or 5th year referee in it who didn't really want anything to do with it. I don't have to go on the bench. So I think between the school and the club, there's some real opportunity for some of these kids to express themselves with rugby.
And I think with the girls, the challenge is going to be continuing to get them integrated into the club, because my frustration as youth convener the last 3 years is because to get matches they've been having to play with the Tayside and Fife squad. They've been playing a lot of games away. They train on a Wednesday night, so if I was down watching the lads youth teams players, I didn't get a chance to see them train, so I haven't seen a lot of them play. And really frustratingly, the fixture, the tournament we were scheduled to host on the 3rd of November was cancelled because of bad weather, which was hugely disappointing, because that was going to be a really good opportunity to see them play and to see them play as Kirkcaldy players as well. So I really look forward to those teams developing.
Yeah, I think from speaking to Cassie and Barry, they've got and been on a webinar or a Zoom call with Rory up in the north of Scotland, who's organising this side for Scottish rugby. I think if they go to festivals, they could play as Kirkcaldy just about 14 or 16. If it's 8 aside, 8 to 10 aside or something, they've got sufficient to play if all the girls come back and fingers crossed.
And that will make such a difference. Yeah, that will make such a difference, because I think
it's such a reward for yourself, Paddy, to get introduced back in, and Cassie and Barry, who have worked tirelessly and like the Hay twins, same as Murray does, with the boys, just rather than me shouting about it all the time at the school and handing out leaflets, they're saying they've got a WhatsApp group, and that's going to work for these girls coming across. So we need them to keep going like that and keep the players coming across.
And I think the dedication that the girls playing at youth level have had to show just to get rugby and they've really stuck with it. It's incredible, the commitment that they've shown to that. And the important thing is they're still really enjoying it. And when they do then get to play at tournaments, they're really buzzing afterwards when they come back to it.
Laura Reary's daughter plays as well, eh? Is it Sophie?
She's just moving up. She's just coming out the wee Blues and moving up. So she'll be playing
Great. Well, it's just the more the merrier. I would rather have a million folk playing. I'm sure Dawn would for memberships as well. But
so the other thing I wanted to mention was around different kind of players. So it's the wee guy here, there on my can't see my finger. Is Van Rensburg. I want to mention Van Rensburg because he, for me, is like an encyclopedia. So if he isn't a player, he'll be a coach or a referee. If you ask him anything, he knows the answer. He's just so interested in it.
Yeah, we ended up, I think he and I
Fantastic.
ended up playing drafts or something, or chess or checkers or something at one of the camps we were waiting on.
Did you?
When waiting on Rab, picking up Rab's always late, eh?
Aye.
That was all he told me. So we ended up with chess, and fortunately Rab didn't. I thought to myself, I'm in real trouble here. This could be a nightmare. 53-year-old man getting laced by a 10-year-old at chess.
Oh, he's definitely a thinker. He's
I
going
think
to.
that's your dad there. I think that's your dad. You need to go. Let's have a look at the list then of what we've got. We're playing senior rugby just now. Then, Colin, you want to rattle some names off, and I'll see if I can add or that.
So the names I've got, they might not be quite the right positions, but front row I've got Marcus, Craig Hamilton, and Matt Collins.
Yep, I had them.
Second row, Ross and Jack Sinclair.
Yeah.
You've got a dreamer as well. I've got James Pow coming back. I'm pretty sure he could come back and do a couple of seasons for us towards the end of his career.
Put him in the centre.
Scott Barkley and Jack Denton, still young guys, eh?
Yeah.
So that was my second row. Back row, I've got Rory Brown, Ewan Henderson, Kieran Mitchell, and Tyrone.
Yeah.
So they guys are all still, they'll be like late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
Halfback, Scotty Anderson and Cammy Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
Centres, Owen Bonner, Sean McKerville.
Don's just a young lad.
I only had two. Jack Devine and PNG, Stuart Henderson, if he's still here.
How old's Stuart? Like, I don't know. You know,
he's 19.
Really, is that all he is?
Aye.
Wow.
So he's playing well for the two. So
yeah. Well, he got. Did he get the year this year? Or was it Players Play of the Year?
Players Play.
Aye, tremendous.
Aye.
We're so chuffed for him. He's a worker, and he's a real sporty. I think he does the Aussie rules and that as well, doesn't he, John Nelson?
That's right.
So he keeps himself fit.
So he's been, I think it's 2 years he's been here now, but he came over as a rugby league player. So he's I remember his first couple of games, he was 6 tackles and he kicked it. And what are you doing?
Wow, when you see that, you think to yourself, 10 years' time, 5 to 10.
Oh, if we can hold on to these players and all these young guys are coming through.
Yeah, and if we can get Don to pay for rail cards so they come back from uni and train and play, that would be something else. You know. And it's one of those things. Kirkcaldy doesn't have a uni, and that's where Edinburgh, Aberdeen, Dundee, Glasgow have the luxury, you know. Callum up at Dundee, Aberdeen captain, and Max now across in Glasgow. I know he's moved across to the martial arts sort of stuff. But
he keeps talking about coming back.
Yeah,
so I think he's thinking about it. Yeah,
he really enjoyed New Zealand and getting a shot in the back row, and I think it really fed his appetite again for rugby.
Yeah, that's right.
As well. Future's
a lot of young talent.
Yeah. What do you think, Murray? You worried?
Yeah.
You worried about third 15 captain coming up?
Certainly going to be a lot of competition.
Isn't it great? And it will just make the teams better because competition does that. You see that?
Because I think that's if you look at the seniors and there's beginning to be more and more competition, and that's meaning that the players are improving because they're not guaranteed their position every week.
Yeah, that was always the thing about successful teams. You know, the teams that have been on here most Fridays, with the 15, all these guys trained like mad because they knew one slip up and you were out the team, and it was a struggle to get back in. And I think we have to bring that culture back in. Now the working week's different than it was then, but I think the guys and girls who can will really make the effort and do well.
But I
enjoyed that. That was great, Paddy.
Yeah, I was just going to say I think that's right, and I just think the point you made about not having university is a really big one. We do have a lot of good players who move away just at the point they'd be going up to seniors. And you look at Sterling do really well, but they've got a university. And they've got a university that's got a big sports science component to it. So the fact that we keep so many, I think, is a real testament to the work that goes in and actually to the commitment of the players as well. And just
teaching at high schools, poor teaching at high schools will do us no harm at all.
Just before we finish as well, I think because we've spent a lot of time talking about youth, I think it's worth just saying that these guys and girls have done fantastically well and continue to do fantastically well. But it's a real testament as well to the coaches and managers of the squads. We'd be nowhere without them, and they do a really sound job behind the scenes. And I think one of the things as a coach and a manager is that the players don't realise often quite how much work goes into it. And so I think it's only when you get to be a bit older and look back, you realise the work that's gone into keeping the teams going and supported. And of course, the parents put a lot of effort.
Absolutely. You know, can't survive without them. I think one of the nice things will be maybe in 10 years' time, the Perry will maybe meet in a pub somewhere and look, and when Kirkcaldy in the Premier League, all these names, and I played a little bit of that. I think I give a little bit of credit for that, which will be nice, you know. So, guys, I can't thank you enough. I've not been at the club a long time compared to used to, but I can't thank you enough for the effort you've put into the club. I think volunteers like yourselves make the club great. As you talked about there, Paddy, the parents and that's how you started as a parent, a rugby playing parent, and Colin, same, you know, and have now grown into, you know, board members and attack coach for the first 15. Colin, you know, the development of yourself has been great, you know. So here's to you, and hopefully in 10 years' time we'll maybe be able to sit in the stand and watch and complain like.
Giving that Oliver guy it tight.
Oh. What sort of hands are they?
First training session, there'll be folk just waiting to punch me. First time I hit the ground.
There'll be a few of us coming to retirement for that one.
That's what I was going to say.
I'll bring my old Adidas flankers out from the army.
Finley Bruce will have boots made of nails and sandpaper and
yeah. Oh, guys, that's been great fun. I think it's been, hopefully, for the viewing public. I know we get about 3 or 4 folk viewing these podcasts now, but no, I think they've been able to reminisce really well for the last 12 weeks that we've been in lockdown. But I think this is going to be great. I think folk are going to be energised with regard to what's out there and coming through. These are just some of the names. You know, there's hundreds more, and there's lots of opportunity to get more and more and more. You know, I think. The growth market of the Curry Rugby Club has been the youth section in the last 2 or 3 years, and shown by the way we're attracting players from teams who aren't working as hard with the youth sections locally. So we've got the opportunity. We're in leagues where we're putting out 4 to 5 teams in the youth section now.
I think the other I think that's right, Corgi. The other thing, just to say as we finish, is that actually what's really encouraging is that players are carrying on and playing really good rugby, but a lot of our players are doing coaching and course as well. So we had Nathan Smith, who's contributing to coaching, Joe Finney, who's gone on and playing and coaching, Sean McCurville obviously is playing and coaching, and I think that shows a fantastic commitment as well.
Correct. And that will just grow, you know, with the cashback we're starting to do at Bulgaria High School. They're all going to get a referee in coaching and strength and conditioning qualification. So, you know, hopefully they'll bring that across. And as you're saying, some people get injured and just can't play, you know, shoulders and knees go, you know, even youngsters, but they're still able to put something back into what is a great club with great people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Murray, you want to round off, mate?
Yeah, that's great then. Thank you to both of you for your time. It's much appreciated.
Pleasure. It's been great fun. Good to chat to you.
Thanks for that.
I think it's a world record.